collapse of our financial system and with it our economy. I hope that that many have learned the lesson that that you hear and see people talking about all the time, and that is that they want this town to put aside its petty arguments and move forward on what's important in their lives. The president used an example the other day with Senator McConnell about appointments. That at this point in President Bush's tenure, there were 6 nominees that had been sitting there for a month or more, right? This president, before today's action in the Senate, had 63. As he said to Senator McConnell, both a quantitative and a qualitative difference. I think that all of these are examples of things that are important to people's lives, that they believe Washington should put aside, as I said, the petty games that normally take up the time in this town to get something done.
You said that people are talk about these things all the time, but the president has been talking about them more and more this year. Are they responding to that kind of pressure, political pressure from the president?
I think they're responding to both the political pressure of the president. I think they're also responding to the political pressure from the American people. The president went to Capitol Hill, tried to go to Capitol Hill to talk to House Republicans about the recovery plan. As we've talked about in here, they put out a statement opposing that plan before the president even got to Capitol Hill. The president spent a lot of time trying to work with Republicans on health care, only to have very few respond. The president will continue to try to do this in an effort to demonstrate to the American people that this town is capable of solving the problems that we face. Helene?
Haiti, one question on Haiti.
Let me go to Helene first.
Thanks. I wanted to ask you, just to go back to Iran first for a minute.
Go back to
Iran.
Oh, okay.
Given the sort of rhetoric that's been coming out of the Iranian leadership in the past week in particular, has the president had any sort of rethink about the whole concept of engagement with Iran? I know you said that
No,
you
because
think
Helene,
his outreach.
we wouldn't be here. We would not be here, unified in the P5+1, were it not for engagement.
I understand that, and I see the
So
I
putting
see that
aside
argument. But what about
putting aside that we're at a point in which those countries have never been more united and more forward in dealing with the threat from Iran.
China and what they're going to do.
Right. So okay, but you wanted me to leave aside the
I would like
United
to.
Front.
I want to put aside the United Front in the P5+1 and ask you to look specifically about the relationship with the Iranian regime as a whole, between the United States and Iran. Do you see any difference there that perhaps has come from an engagement, and is there any rethink about whether or not there was any that's gone anywhere?
Again, I think it demonstrated to the world that these were decisions that weren't going to be made by the United States or by Russia or by China. These were decisions that were going to be made by the Iranians. Now, sometimes it's been confusing. Sometimes they've accepted ideas and agreements only to come back a week or so later and not accept them. And whether or not there is one or two voices in Iran speaking for the Iranian regime, or whether there are many conflicting voices, I'll let others decide. But because we engaged, it demonstrated to the world that the choices that Iran made were choices that it alone had to vouch for. The Tehran Research Reactor is again a good example. That they're going to run out of the type of medical isotopes that they need to treat those in their country that could be helped by this, right? If your program is one for peaceful needs, why not accept the help of the IAEA in ensuring the health and safety of your people? I think, again, their walking away from that agreement demonstrates for the whole world to see what their intentions really are.
Robert in Haiti.
Just quick, Robert, U.S. wants Iran to stop the nuclear weapons program, but Iranian president is firm on their nuclear program, and they said that sanctions had not worked in the past. So how now sanctions will work?
Well,
What is the future
This is
now
a much
besides
longer
sanctions?
discussion. Well, I think that this is a process that has begun at the United Nations, and I don't want to get too far of that. You want a Haiti question? Then
Yeah,
I'll-
just one thing. Do you, from what you've observed so far, do you believe that the Haitian government has properly carried out the judicial process concerning those Americans who are being held? And also, under the circumstances.
Jill, I'll point you to state because I have not had a lot of time to look at the Haitian judicial process over the course of many days, but I know they have had contact with the Haitian judicial system and with those missionaries. So I would point you over to state on that. Steve?
The Vice President last night said that Iraq could end up being one of the President's great achievements. Given that the Vice President was in favor of a partial partition of the country, and the President opposed the surge that helped stabilize it, how is that one of the President's great achievements?
Well, putting what was broken back together and getting our troops home, which we intend to do in August of this year.
But the status of the
Well, again-
forced agreement to bring troops home was signed before the President took office.
Something that something I think that the political pressure that the president, as a then candidate, helped to bring about. Look, I think that that we will long debate Iraq. We will long debate whether, at a very important moment in our efforts to root out terrorism, particularly in Afghanistan and on that border region with Pakistan, whether we took our eye off the ball. I think historians will debate that long after we're gone. I think they will come likely to the conclusion that no single event took our eye off of what needed to be done in order to occupy a country that until we got there didn't have a single member of Al-Qaeda. So look, obviously, look, the Vice President's been deeply involved in fixing the political process there so that elections can be held and so that our troops can come home as scheduled this summer. Adi?
Robert, if you're the average Iranian, you're hearing about the possibility of more sanctions, what can you do to reassure him or her that the sanctions will be targeted against organizations associated with the government and not them specifically? And are you worried that these sanctions, if you do pursue them and they're carried out, will only serve to solidify the hold of the Iranian government over the people?
Well, look, I think the government's hold over those people, I think, in the streets over the past many months is in many ways called into question. I don't want to get into the specifics of what is being worked through, except to say that obviously we do not want to see a backsliding in progress and to do things that risk putting the political changes that are clearly happening in that country to see them fall back. All of that is